Welcome to Sleep Shaper, your destination for expertly crafted sleep stories that help you fall asleep faster and deeper. I'm Saiful, your host. I'm so glad you're here. In tonight's story, David and Goliath, a bedtime story of courage and faith, we explore David's victory over Goliath, focusing on the courage that comes with faith and trusting in God. Let the soft whispers of the evening breeze and the gentle unfolding of grace guide you into a deep, restful sleep.
The day gently surrendered to dusk over the rolling Judean hills, painting the vast, open sky in the softest strokes of lavender, rose, and molten gold. A profound stillness settled upon the land, broken only by the most delicate sounds of evening. A gentle breeze, carrying the clean, earthy scent of wild thyme from the sun-warmed rocks and the refreshing coolness of evening dew, began to whisper its way through the ancient, gnarled olive trees. Their silvery leaves shivered with a soft, rustling melody, a natural lullaby. Young David, our quiet shepherd, sat cross-legged amidst his flock. The air around him was thick with a palpable sense of peace, as if the very atmosphere held its breath in reverence. The wool of the sheep, gathered close around him, felt incredibly soft and warm beneath his outstretched hand, a comforting, living blanket. He held his handcrafted lyre, its smooth wood worn with affection. As his fingers, accustomed to the delicate touch of new lambs, began to pluck the strings, a melody emerged, pure, simple, and so profoundly peaceful it seemed, to gently soothe the very air around them. Each note was more than just music. It was a whispered prayer, a quiet, intimate conversation flowing effortlessly from his heart to his heavenly Father. It was a melody of gratitude for the day's blessings, a soft offering of his presence. The sheep, nestled even closer there, bodies a warm, living mosaic, exhaled in slow, contented sighs, their gentle, rhythmic breathing a living pulse of peace and trust. David's own heart resonated with this quiet calm, a deep, unshakable stillness that arose from an unwavering, abiding trust in the one who watches over all, over every star that began to prick the darkening sky, over every sleeping creature, and over David himself. Rest now, quiet one, rest in this tranquil space, enfolded by his gentle care. As the twilight deepened, painting the western horizon in the last faint blush of sunset, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift rippled through the air. Even here, nestled in the serene solitude of the high pasture, far from the distant, bustling camps, David felt it. It wasn't a sound at first, but a change in the very texture of the evening, a faint vibration beneath the quiet hum of the crickets. Then, it became audible, a faint, distant murmur carried on the cool night wind. It wasn't the joyful sounds of a village celebration, nor the steady rhythm of shepherds calling their flocks. This was a sound woven from unease and apprehension. It was the collective echo of worry, a ripple of fear emanating from the valley far below, a place where many hearts were heavy. He heard it as a collective sigh, a troubled murmur of thousands, carried on the gentle currents of the air. Though the veil of night obscured his view, preventing him from seeing the encampments or the cause of the distress, David's shepherd's heart, attuned to the subtle shifts in his flock, sensed the profound unrest. He felt the burden weighing on his people, a silent, spiritual weight that seemed to press down even on the stars. This distant disquiet served as a gentle reminder of the world's clamor, its anxieties, and its struggles. Yet, here, under the vast, boundless canvas of the star-studded sky, bathed in the soft glow of the nascent moon, God's peace remained, steadfast and encompassing. It was a tangible comfort, a quiet assurance that even amidst the world's troubles, a deeper tranquility could be found. Feel the quiet presence, like a soft, protective embrace, enfolding you, guarding you. The first whisper of dawn, a soft, pearly gray, painted the eastern sky. The air, still cool from the night, carried the invigorating scent of damp earth and awakening foliage. The morning arrived, fresh and utterly revitalizing, bathed in that soft, ethereal light that promised a new day. David, already tending to a new lamb, heard his father, Jesse, call to him from their simple dwelling. Jesse's voice, always kind and steady, held a subtle undertone of concern, a quiet weight that hadn't been there the evening before. "David, my son," Jesse said, "your brothers, our soldiers, they are in the valley, facing this formidable foe. They need provisions. Take these fresh loaves and this golden cheese to them." As David carefully gathered the warmth of the still warm, freshly baked bread wrapped in linen, and the solid, reassuring weight of the cheese, a subtle shift occurred within him. A nascent sense of purpose began to stir, a gentle unfolding in his spirit. This journey, though outwardly a simple errand of delivery, felt like something more profound. It was a journey born not just of filial care and practical compassion, but of a deeper, unspoken calling. He wasn't just carrying food. He was carrying a piece of the quiet, unwavering faith that resided so deeply within his own heart, a faith that he knew could bring solace even in the midst of fear. The morning air, now fully vibrant with the day's promise, filled with the rich, comforting aroma of the bread, a potent, ancient scent of provision and love, a reminder that even in challenging times, sustenance and care are always present. Feel provided for, deeply cared for, in every tender way. As David descended from the familiar, peaceful hills, the air around him began to subtly shift, growing heavier, charged with a palpable tension. The comforting quiet of the high pastures swiftly gave way to a discordant cacophony of worried whispers and heavy sighs. It was not the buzz of a market or the shouts of children playing, but a low, pervasive hum of anxiety, 1,000 individual fears blending into one oppressive atmosphere. The very air itself felt thick with apprehension, a tangible weight that pressed down on the valley floor. There, in the distance, David saw him, Goliath. He wasn't just a man of imposing stature. He loomed like a towering shadow of doubt, a physical manifestation of the immense fear gripping the Israelite army. His presence seemed to cast a literal pall, a dark cloud of intimidation over every tent, every face. David heard the giant's booming challenge, his voice a guttural roar that echoed off the valley walls, demanding a champion. But even more acutely, David heard something far more insidious, the inner voices of the soldiers. He saw their slumped shoulders, their averted gazes, and heard the constant, internal refrain that seemed to ripple through their ranks. "Impossible," they whispered, their voices barely audible but potent with despair. "He's too strong. We cannot win. These, David realized with a pang in his heart, were the true giants the soldiers faced, not just the formidable physical one standing before them, but the internal echoes of fear, inadequacy, and overwhelming doubt that had taken root in their very souls. David observed, he listened, and his heart ached for this widespread loss of courage, for the dimming of hope in so many eyes. It was a stark contrast to the quiet trust he had just left behind in the hills. Let go of the noise, release the worry that clings to your spirit, and simply listen for the quiet truth that resides within. As David stood amidst the palpable fear of the Israelite camp, the giant Goliath's words continued to reverberate, a booming roar of intimidation, a challenge laced with contempt. Yet, David's keen perception, honed by years of quiet observation, picked up on a sound far more insidious, far more damaging than Goliath's external bluster. It was the pervasive, relentless whisper of impossible that had firmly settled into the very hearts of the Israelite army. It permeated the air like a chilling mist, dampening their spirits and paralyzing their will. This was the voice that constantly told them they were too small, too weak, too inadequate. It was the insidious suggestion that their efforts would be futile, that their God had abandoned them, that victory was an unreachable dream. David recognized this whisper with a quiet understanding, for he knew how easily it could creep into any human heart, clouding judgment and stealing courage. He had faced his own moments of doubt, protecting his flock from lions and bears that in that moment. Amidst the clamor of despair, David instinctively closed his eyes. In that brief, sacred pause, within that quiet, internal space, he deliberately shut out the roar of Goliath and the insidious murmurs of fear. And then he heard another voice. Faint at first, like a distant echo carried on the wind, it steadily grew clearer, stronger, filling the stillness within him. It was the gentle, steadfast voice of his God, a soothing balm to his spirit. This voice didn't speak of physical might or overwhelming force. Instead, it lovingly reminded him of strength, not of muscle or earthly power, but of spirit, of faith, of divine partnership. It was a reminder that true power resided in unwavering trust, not in human capability alone. Breathe in courage now, deeply and slowly, and as you exhale, gently release all the persistent whispers of impossible. Seeking a momentary respite from the heavy atmosphere of the camp, David wandered to the edge of the valley, drawn by the faint sound of flowing water. There, nestled amidst smooth, moss-covered rocks, he found a clear stream, its waters shimmering with an almost ethereal purity under the afternoon sun. The stream murmured softly, a gentle, constant sound, as it flowed over countless smooth, round stones, polishing them with its patient currents. David knelt at the bank, his hands, calloused from his shepherd's staff and lyre, dipping into the cool, refreshing water. The chill was invigorating, a gentle awakening. With quiet intentionality, he began to select 5 smooth stones from the streambed. Each one was perfectly formed, polished by the water's ceaseless flow, fitting comfortably into the hollow of his palm. He felt their quiet, reassuring weight, their cool, solid presence. These were not merely ordinary stones. To David, They were tangible reminders of truth, of promises faithfully kept, of the Lord's past deliverances from dangers known and unknown. Each smooth surface, each rounded curve, became a symbol, a quiet testament to God's unwavering faithfulness. In times past, they represented victories over previous doubts, over personal challenges, affirming that the same God who protected his flock would be with him now. The gentle splash of the water against his hands, the cool, grounding touch of the stones, worked in harmony to center him, focusing his spirit and strengthening his resolve. Feel the quiet strength building within you, a gentle, unwavering certainty, like these smooth stones of truth. When David finally stood before Goliath, the air in the valley crackled with an expectant, terrified silence. There was no grand fanfare preceding him, no impressive armor or weapons. Just a small shepherd boy, armed with a staff, a sling, and the 5 smooth stones. The hardened soldiers of Israel, their faces etched with weeks of fear, stared, utterly astonished, at this seemingly unassuming figure. A ripple of incredulity moved through their ranks. Goliath, towering and immense, let out a booming scoff, his laughter a jarring, contemptuous sound that echoed ominously through the valley. "Am I a dog," he roared, "that you come to me with sticks?" His words dripped with disdain, intended to shatter any shred of confidence. Yet, amidst this immense display of intimidation, David stood in a profound stillness. It was a calm born, not of youthful bravado or ignorance of danger, but of a deep, unwavering faith. His gaze, steady and clear, met the giants with an inner peace that baffled the onlookers. In that critical moment, David's mind wasn't filled with fear of Goliath's size. Instead, he quietly remembered the lion and the bear, the fierce predators he had faced alone to protect his flock. He recalled how, in those moments of peril, God's mighty hand had been with him, granting him the strength and courage to overcome. He heard the inner voices of doubt, those insidious whispers that plagued the army, but they held no power over him. They were mere echoes in the vastness of his trust. His courage was not the absence of fear, but the absolute and profound presence of trust, a complete reliance on the Almighty God who had never failed him. This faith was his shield, his armor, and his might. Trust now, breathe deeply, and feel the quiet, encompassing strength of God surrounding you, steadying your heart. With a steady, unhurried motion, David reached into the simple shepherd's bag hanging at his side. His fingers, guided by instinct and inner calm, immediately found one of the smooth, cool stones he had chosen from the stream. He drew it out, feeling its familiar, reassuring weight. He then placed it carefully into the pouch of his sling, the familiar worn leather cool and supple in his grasp. The air itself seemed to hold its breath, a silent, vast canvas for this solitary act of faith. David took a deep, slow, and wonderfully calm breath, filling his lungs with the crisp air of the valley, a stark contrast to the stifling fear that had choked the atmosphere moments before. As he began to swing the sling, a gentle, rhythmic hum building around him, he wasn't just preparing to hurl a stone. In that moment of focused concentration, as the sling spun with increasing speed, he also consciously released every whisper of impossible that had ever tried to lodge itself in his own heart or in the hearts of the watching army. He released the heavy burden of fear, the suffocating grip of doubt, and the immense weight of the moment's expectations. With each rotation, he symbolically cast off every anxiety, trusting fully and completely in the unseen, guiding hand that directed all things. The stone flew true, a silent, swift missile against the morning light. It was more than just a stone. It was a potent, undeniable testament to a faith that could move mountains, and in this case, bring down a giant. The entire valley seemed to gasp as one, a collective intake of breath, followed by a slow, collective exhalation of pure astonishment. Let go now. Feel the lightness. Release any burdens you carry, knowing with absolute certainty that you are held, always held. The impact was swift, decisive, and astonishingly quiet. Goliath, the towering embodiment of fear and impossible, fell. It wasn't with a deafening crash of thunder, nor a cataclysmic roar that shook the very earth, but with a surprising, almost muted thud. It was the sound of something immense, yet fundamentally hollow, collapsing in on itself. More profoundly, it was the resonant sound of doubt collapsing, of pervasive fear finally losing its suffocating grip on an entire army. On countless hearts, a stunned hush descended over the valley, profound and absolute. For a long moment, time seemed to stand still as the reality of what had just transpired settled upon everyone. Then, slowly at first, a ripple began to spread. It was not a sound of chaos, but of a rising tide of hope, a gentle, murmuring wave of renewed courage. The internal Goliaths within the soldiers, those deeply entrenched beliefs of inadequacy and defeat, began to visibly crumble. Their shoulders, previously slumped under the weight of despair, began to straighten. Their eyes, once downcast, lifted with a quiet awe and a dawning understanding. David, our humble shepherd, stood calmly amidst the unfolding wonder, a small, yet powerful, beacon of what is truly possible when a heart is fully yielded to God. The victory was not merely over a physical giant. It was a profound triumph over the very notion of impossible, proving that the greatest battles are often won within. Feel the peace settling over you now, like a soft, warm blanket, wrapping you in its comforting embrace. The day's last light has fully surrendered to the night, and a deep, profound peace, distinct from the fleeting calm of earlier, descends upon the land. It's a peace that whispers of victory and the quiet, certain strength found in trust. David, our humble shepherd, returns to the gentle rhythms of his quiet life, his spirit unwavering, knowing deeply that true strength comes not from earthly might, but from an unshakable, unwavering trust in God. As you now close your eyes, allow yourself to imagine that very same peace settling over your own heart, a comforting presence that washes over you from the crown of your head to the tips of your toes. All the whispers of impossible, all the towering giants of doubt that might occasionally loom in the quiet corners of your mind can now gently fall away. Just as Goliath fell, so too can the weight of your worries and uncertainties. You are safe, enveloped in a divine embrace. You are loved, cherished beyond measure by a boundless, unfailing love. And you are held, securely and tenderly, in the palm of his hand. Rest now, dear one, cradled in the profound knowing that with God, all things are truly possible. Your courage is renewed, not by your own strength, but by His Spirit within you. Your conviction is deepened, rooted in an eternal hope. Sleep deeply, sleep peacefully, submerged in the unwavering embrace of His boundless love. Sleep now in profound peace. Sleep deeply. Rest